Yes, you're looking at Comrade Adams Oshiomole, who is the former national chair of the All Progressive Congress. He is also declaring his intention to run for president. Let's pick up proceedings in the Federal Capital Territory.
Your Excellencies, very respected guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Of course, today we're here not just because we couldn't do anything for the day, but we're here to join force, join voice, and of course, to join prayers with a Nigerian that is very well loved. A man of impeccable character, a political juggernaut, a man that is loved by the people of Nigeria, a man that has served, that is serving, and that is still very much willing to serve. A very, very pragmatic, a God-fearing, and a man with a great sense of responsibility. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're here for the official declaration of His Excellency, Comrade Adams Aliyu Awanigbode Oshiomole, MNI for the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to restructure the change. Comrade sir, before you came, I made a statement that as I did the introduction, that people should try their best to bring out their phones and do a recording. Because for as much as all of us who are here today, on the day of your swearing in as president of this country, they will also show people that video recording that they were there at your official declaration. And so shall it be by the grace of God. So ladies and gentlemen, today, of course, in the capacity of a blessed human being that Comrade is, there's a lot of people who sure would have been here today. But today we're here, cut across different dimensions of the country. We have people who have come to stand with and behind you for this official declaration. And so, Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, first, before we go into the business of the day, permit me to bring on stage to help us with the opening prayer our pastor who is here. Please put your hands together for Apostle Pastor. Give him a round of applause.
This, for me, this is a very special moment, and we have to first of all commit to God a time like this, because He is the one that has made it possible for us to be here, to witness a day like this. It's a very special moment, so we must commit it to the hands of our Maker, our Creator, and our So please, for those who believe, can we all be upstanding as we share a word of prayer to the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, to our Father, our God, and our Maker. Father, we thank you. In Jesus' precious name we pray. Father, Lord, we have come before you at this moment. There is none like you, ancient of days, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. That is who you are. Lord, we have come because you know that a day like this in the history of Nigeria will come first. Lord, you know that a day like this Lord, you will make it to come to pass. Father, we commit this day. We commit the declaration they say in your hands. We commit, oh Lord, the tool, the man that you are sending forth, Father, to change, to bring about the desired change, to bring about the desired transformation that Nigeria requires. Father, we call on you to take the lead, to lead your son, to take us to the promised land. Father, we give you praise because we know it's a done deal. In Jesus' precious name we pray. Be thou glorified because we know you are going to lead and guide us to the end. Blessed be thy name. In Jesus' most precious, most gracious name we have prayed. Amen and amen. Hallelujah. God bless you. You may be seated.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, may I also invite to help us with the Muslim prayer, Dr. Barrister Fasasi Abdul Wasiu, who is the chief imam of the University of Abuja.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful, the omniscient, the omnipotent, the one that has the control of the affairs of the heaven and earth without a partner. We thank him, we glorify his name for granting us this day. Today we are all assembled here to attend this function, the declaration of the Nigerian president to be distinguished Comrade Adam Oshiomhole. As he's declaring today, we pray and invoke Allah protection on him to so declare him as the next president of this country. Nigeria as a nation at this critical time needs a leader that is strong, capable, durable, that will take Nigeria to the promised land. We pray to Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all family, friends, and political associates that will join you in this race. May Allah restore his protection on them. We anoint him, we pray to him on all electionary activities by invoking the fast of Anur, that is life. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma samawati wal ard. Mathali nurihi kamishkati misbah misbah. Fi sujadatina sujada. Ka'anna kawkabun durri fi masjidatin mubarakatin. Zaytunatin la shakkiyata wala gharbiyya. Yakadu zaytuha yudi'u law lam tamsashu naarun nuran ala nur. Yahdi Allahu bi nurihi man yasha. Wa yadribu Allahu al-amthal wallahu bi kulli shay'in alim. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take us to our favorite destination peacefully as we get there.
Thank you so much. So, after praise, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, permit me now to bring on stage to give us the welcome address and the opening remark, the Deputy Leader of the Federal House. Not him, not the man in front of me. Not yet, anyway. Please put your hands together for the Deputy Leader of the Federal House of Representatives, Honorable Peter Akpakasi, as he comes forward to give us the opening remark for this evening.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The representative of Royal Highnesses who are here present, our great leaders from across the country, including serving and past officers in various capacities, the great comrade, leader of the great productive forces of Nigeria for so many years, leader and governor of one of the most powerful states in Nigeria, and also a one-time chairman of the largest party in the whole of Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to formally welcome you to this occasion this evening. This is a very simple one. As you all know, we are here to be part of the epoch-making event of a man that is known to every Nigerian, who has achieved so much in every facet of life. The man who decorated every state with projects that have never been seen in that part of the country before. The man who led the working forces of Nigeria to achieve the best that Labour has ever achieved in this country. Ladies and gentlemen, you are here this evening to be part of this event of the declaration for the presidency of this country by the man that needs no introduction, because his name has been on the list of virtually every Nigerian, for the obvious fact that he has surpassed expectations in so many aspects of life. I am pleased to welcome you to the occasion of the declaration for the presidency of Nigeria by His Excellency, Comrade Adams Aliu Oshiomhole. Thank you very much for coming today.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you for his official declaration today in front of me, Comrade Adams Aliu Oshiomhole, popularly called Oshobaba.
My dear brother and comrade, the deputy leader of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Peter Akpata-Singh, who was himself a former president of NUPEN and a wartime vice president of Nigeria Labour Congress when I was president of Nigeria Labour Congress. Let me also appreciate other members of the National Assembly, including Honorable Asowere, including Honorable Josie Oguma, and several others. Of course, we also have, I must quickly appreciate, and I invited him to join me on the front seat, my brother, my friend, my comrade, the man with whom we serve as steward and co-steward when I went to Edo and I had the privilege to superintend at the level of Governor of Edo State, Dr. Pius Igbirame Udugu. Of course, we also have former honorable members who are not tired and who made their mark on the floor of the National Assembly. We have here Honorable Engineer, Teacher Abubakar Momo, and we have Honorable Abdul Oro, a former human rights activist. I remember during the military when they punched his eye, but they punched his eye, but they could not punch his courage. There are so many other members in the parliament, in the executive from Edo and other parts of Nigeria. Let me also appreciate very especially traditional ruler, our royal fathers that are here, and also appreciate those who led us in prayers, both Christian prayers and Muslim prayers that was led by a man I respect very much from the chief imam of the University of Abuja. That is particularly of interest to me, because this afternoon we're going to talk about education, because we can't just be lamenting when things are not going right. So I want to appreciate each and every one of you that has come from far and wide. And I'm excited that in spite of the very, very, very short notice, many of you didn't even get any written invitation, nor did I have the opportunity to call you one-on-one on phone. And yet, men and women, young and old, from different parts of Nigeria, you have managed to come to this hall. Let me explain why I choose to make this declaration in this hall. I think that the business of governing Nigeria goes beyond entertainment. I do not think it's about beating drums and singing praises. It's about delivering the message and making sure that you deliver it in a manner that it is loud and clear, either for people to agree or for people not to agree. There has to be a basis for conversation as we march towards 2023. I do not think that having a declaration where drummers are at work, first dancers are showing their skill, all those are important. But they will be more important if Nigeria work for everyone. And the level of income improves, life is better, then entertainment is necessary in order to relax people who have worked hard. My own personal philosophy is work very hard, but for God's sake, relax even harder. So by this, I mean that whereas entertainment is important, on occasions such as this, we rather want to concentrate on the message. Why do I want to be a president? But first, I must make the declaration before I explain why. I have come here this afternoon for one purpose: to formally declare that I, Adams Aliu, our Negboyi, Oshiomhole, hereby declare with confidence my desire to contest for the office of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on the platform of a party that we co-found, the All Progressive Congress. Please have your seat. I think that I must first make the declaration before I explain why. Why do I want and why do I believe? I even use the word, why am I confident that I have what it takes to preside over the affairs of this great country at the level of president? But first, I need to tell you my story. I was born, like many of us, in a small rural village that was not on the map of Nigeria. There was no presence of government, not even a police post, not water, not light, not road. All that we have or we had was land, and of course, the Almighty God, which is most important. It is from that background that I was born, and I stayed at home, attended the secondary school, went to Kaduna at the age of 16 and a half, without a godfather, without a brother, without an uncle, without a sister, but fired by a determination and confident that if any one man can make it, I too can make it, in spite of the circumstances of my birth. And I worked in Kaduna in a textile factory, which was the vision, the result of a vision of Sir Ahmadu Bello, the Sadana of Sokoto, who argued, not just argued, who saw the need for Nigeria to add value to each primary products. And that is how Kaduna Textiles was established, Arewa Textile was established, among others. And I found a job at Arewa Textiles. I worked as a daily paid worker, 5 shillings and 3 pence a day. If you don't come to work, no pay. It's not something to be argued. And I do remember that on my first day, my supervisor, just looking at my side, dismissed me instantly that I was not capable of doing the job that they had to do. I saw the abuse of economic power. But I was also lucky that we had in the system a personnel manager who insisted that the look of a man tells no story about his ability or capacity, and I should be allowed to go and do my job. In fact, according to him, he said, men are not equal. Let him do according to his strength. That is the beginning of my story. And I work in a textile factory where 4,000 Nigerians were employed. About 85% of these are from northern Nigeria. And over time, they found me worthy to be elected as a local union leader. I became a local union chairman, an organizing secretary for Textile Workers Union, and I rose to become a deputy national secretary. I ended up as general secretary of the Textile Workers Union all over Nigeria. There is something that you should take note of. That I was born in Edo State, and I choose to live in Kaduna without knowing anybody. And I got elected in the textile factory. And I was being elected and re-elected and re-elected until I became the general secretary. There is no textile factory in my state of origin, which is Edo State. Now that tells a story of a Nigeria in which people accepted you, supported you on the basis of who you are, the content of your character, not your accident or bad place, not your religion. So when they say, who are you? They speak it to your character. They speak it to your value, your capacity. And that is the Nigeria that took me to Kaduna. And I am proud to say that whatever I am today and whatever I shall be, thanks to Sir Ahmadu Bello, who established those textile factories without which I wouldn't have been employed, and I wouldn't have been a union leader, I wouldn't have been the general secretary, I wouldn't have been president of Nigeria Labour Congress, and definitely I wouldn't have been governor of Edo State. But if a young man could leave his village and come to a city like Kaduna without knowing anybody and survive, I think today there is no question that it is difficult for people to just travel like that without being suspected that you are either armed robber or something, and somebody will take you to his house without knowing your parents, etc., etc. I believe we must recreate Nigeria such that anyone can find comfort and we will be accepted for who we are, not on the basis of where we come from, not on the basis of our religion. I think the challenge we face today are very clear to me. Having been president of Nigeria Labour Congress for 8 years, through a democratic process, I have had the opportunity to speak truth to power and to engage power and even to wrestle with power, as Peter Patterson and several of our colleagues in the Nigeria Labour Congress did between February 1999 to February 2007. I believe that many of you who are of my age or who are about 40 or a little less than that will have fond memories of those days. We spoke truth to power about policies, whether they were economic policies, social policies, healthcare policies, infrastructural policies, etc., etc. I have also risen to become a governor. I have had the opportunity to preside over a state. I go to that state, and I'm sure most people from Edo State, and even people who are not from Edo State, who have a clear memory of the situation in Edo State by the time I became the governor on November 12th, 2008. We saw classrooms without roof. We saw children sitting on the floor. Like somebody said, children could see plane flying across from their classroom. 6 p.m. Pickpocket, etc., etc. This could not be reached. There was not any work I do about it. Even worse is that we were passing. Governorship of Edo State, as I am doing today, I did say to the people of Edo State, but the vote will count, that injustice, oppression, and continue to flow the system, decide to be quiet. The day the oppressed rise to resist oppression, the day the marginalized rise to resist marginalization, the day those who are deprived come together to fight against deprivation, that will be the beginning of change. And I assure them, it is not the hard work of God that votes do not count. It is just a small number of persons who have held the state hostage, and somehow they managed to behave as if they were invisible, and therefore the people were helpless. I assure the Edo people then, as I want to do today, that there is no man born of a woman who is invisible. What you need is to cooperate, collaborate, rather than lamenting. So the task before us is not for us to continue to lament the imperfections in our country. The task before us is to find the courage and stand up and be counted in our determination to reposition our country, to be the guide of our continent, so that it can provide prosperity for all Nigerians, so that the big purpose will command the respect that it ought to command. When I was going to school in the 70s, I didn't need visa to go to the UK. I believe if our founding fathers build a country like that, and others have built on it, there is no reason why we cannot build or where we are today. I have not therefore come to lament all the imperfections. I have come to have a conversation as to what I believe we need to do differently to reposition Nigeria on the path of sustainable growth and development. I believe that sometimes we spend so much time dealing with the consequences of what is wrong, rather than tracing the root cause of those consequences. Of course, right now we talk about insecurity, we talk about employment, we talk about poverty, greedy poverty, access of power supply, and all of those things. But what I want to talk to this afternoon, why I want to be president, is what I'm going to do differently to ensure that we stop lamenting and start engaging and start organizing. They can make it, but it is not going to be easy. And life is not meant to be easy. Our coming to the world was not easy. If you are a doubt, ask your mother how much labor pain she went through to bring us to the world. So if coming to the world was not easy, we have no basis for the illusion that good things will come without fight, without struggle, without organizing, without mobilizing, without being determined to reject what we don't want and work to enthrone a society of our dream. I want to start by appreciating our President, President Muhammadu Buhari. I participated fully as a city governor, two-time governor, in the formation of the APC. And for many of us, we form APC in order not only to take power from PDP, but to enthrone a progressive government. And giving President Buhari's credentials in terms of anti-corruption, a man of honor and integrity. Many of us, at least from Edo and some other part of the country, we were clear that that is the man we needed at that moment for us to take power from PDP. And today, it's time to appreciate that President Buhari provided that leadership, without which we would not have been able to take PDP out of power. We have achieved that first objective. And our president has presided now over several years, but by the rules, he is due to vacate office on May 29, 2023. And someone else must step in. It is on that basis that I want to be that one person who will take over for President Buhari. I do so on the understanding that we all know, all over the world, that the only thing that is constant is change. The fact that you changed yesterday does not mean that what you have changed to today can still not be changed tomorrow. And that is why when you look at Japanese, those of you who like vehicles, you buy a car, you think this is the best. Some people will say it has all the options. 1 year later, a new model has come out, making the last year model look like analog. That is the world we live in. So we seek to redefine and restructure the change in the light of the experiences we have gathered over the past several years. As we speak, we still have huge challenges with the economy in spite of all the effort that have been invested since we took over from the People's Democratic Party. And therefore the economy, but at the end, there is no country in the world that seeks to prosper without speaking to the economy. I do not know any country in the world that has become so prosperous that the sustainable growth and development of the economy is no longer an issue. It will always be. But the challenge is that when a new leader comes, which is why our constitution allows for periodic elections, that every new leader must engage the populace as to what will you do differently to fasten the pace of economic growth and development. And given my own background as a worker, I am not just interested in a country that is rich. I am interested in how those riches are distributed. I am not just interested about the growth of GDP, whether it's 1%, 2%, 10%. I am even more interested on who benefits from that growth. I am interested not just in double-digit growth. I am interested in the character and the quality of that growth. Is it a job? Is it a growth that has created more jobs? Or is it a growth in which fewer people are getting richer and more people are getting poorer? But overall, the economy is growing. All those can happen. And therefore, the character of growth must be such that it is influenced by government so that Nigeria returns to what I call job-led growth. I want to repeat. Job-led growth, not jobless growth. My concern is that when we talk about the economy in this country, I listen to analysts, whether we are or we have a 1% growth, 2% growth, 10% growth. There is no effort to explain that as a result of this growth, X more number of workers have been employed, or X number of workers have been declared redundant. So I am going to speak to the character of growth that fascinates me, that I believe will deliver prosperity to the majority of Nigerians. The issue of the economy, jobs, and poverty and even insecurity, they are all interrelated. It is common sense, as everybody says, that an idle man is a devil's workshop. What kind of business takes place in a devil's workshop? It cannot be business of producing reverend fathers, or pastors, or imams, or lecturers. The devil's shop can only produce criminals, hardened criminals, and even terrorists. So when we talk about the huge level of unemployment in Nigeria, and we talk about insecurity, we don't have to be professors to understand the linkage between joblessness and heightened level of insecurity. And therefore, in dealing with poverty, we must create jobs. And those jobs must be decent jobs. Jobs that you earn enough to meet your basic needs. Not a job that you ask yourself, your pay cannot take you home. Which I think are some of the issues we have to address if we are going to fight and defeat poverty on a sustainable basis. I also want to talk about education. I want to talk about education because as we speak just now, the only children in school are those children whose parents can afford private universities, whether at home or abroad. In a world that is knowledge-driven, you know, the man who introduced me said, we belong to a party, the largest party in Africa. I have stopped celebrating size. And on a later note, you will understand why I will not celebrate size. Because if we celebrate size, I can't stand here. What is my size? I think we are now, I want Nigeria to be described under my presidency as the smartest, I use the word smartest country on the continent. Not just the largest country. Because even the economist that talks about economics of scale as a value, particularly if you are looking at huge market, economists also talk about diseconomies of scale. Just last week, I had a conversation with a professor who had been a vice chancellor, and he wants to return back to the classroom at the end of his tenure. As a vice chancellor, his salary has increased to 1.4 million. But when he returned back to teach, his salary will drop to 450,000 naira a month, because that is the salary of a professor. My dear brothers and friends, how realistic in the world of today for Nigeria as a country to pay a professor 450,000 naira a month, which is not up to the salary of maybe a middle-level worker in the banking sector or maybe in some sections of the oil sector. A Nigerian professor earning less than $1,000 a month. That is a joke. Now, who among us here, if we have choice, and if this is the reality, and to be a professor, you must have been in the academic system for over 20 to 30 years. You must prayerfully be a married man, hopefully with 4 children, and you have to live on 450,000. If the professor earns 450,000, what does graduate assistant earn? What does the senior lecturer earn? What does the reader earn, or associate professor? So I think we must revisit it. As it stands today, many Nigerians see ASU as creating the crisis. ASU may have a challenge in terms of its inability to explain its own problems. But I don't think there is any Nigeria in this hall and outside this hall who expect that after teaching and becoming a professor in your 40s or in your 50s, and you have been teaching for more than 30 years, that your salary is under 500,000. Even worse, that whereas inflation has been in double digits since that time, even this year, it's almost 40% increase, official statistics, that This is what professors are. Now, I use professor as a point of reference to all other people who work in the public sector. The truth of the matter is that Nigeria salary earners, particularly in the public sector, they are grossly underpaid. They are grossly underpaid. And the consequences of that underpayment has to be understood. When a man has to choose between embarrassing himself as a father who is a professor, who is a director or assistant director or senior executive officer or whatever are the criteria we have in the public service, they call you director and you cannot direct your child to a school. You are director. You can't direct your wife to a market to buy the basic feed that can cook a decent pot of soup. You are a director. You can't dress neatly or provide for your families. I think that Nigeria must face the reality of appropriate compensation. There must be some leakage between effort and reward. As things stand, that is not the situation. So I want to declare that God blessing my intention to be president of Nigeria, I will do everything possible to engage not just the academic staff union of universities. We will have to engage all stakeholders, including university administrators, including families, and all those who are interested in ensuring that the academic calendar of our universities is maintained. This is not something that we need to celebrate. It was like that before. Those in power today, those of us, people of my age, in those days, you know when your child will go to school and you know when he will graduate. If our former leaders, when we have fewer graduates in government, we have fewer professors in government, we have fewer engineers in government, we have fewer doctors in government, if they were able to ensure that the academic calendar was respected, we have no excuse to take disruption as a given. And God helping, we will put an end to all the, what has become occasional festivals that take place in our university virtually every year, such as a 4-year degree program now take as much as 8 years. But I also think that in engaging ASU, we will speak to some of the initiative of ASU. It is through ASU agitation that TED Fund was created, in which private sector employers are obliged to contribute a percentage of either their turnover or their profit to fund tertiary education. Today, TED Fund is there. I am not sure how much say ASU has in the management of TED Fund. If God so decide that I become the president of Nigeria, ASU will not be an observer in the management of TED Fund. They will be inside the system and together decide how to allocate and how to ensure that after allocation, that when the money gets to the university, that we get value for money. Part of the challenge we have is that government books show so much money has been allocated. And here you go to the university, you don't see commensurate evidence on ground, which means there is a gap between what is given and how it is managed. I believe with robust constructive engagement, this can be put to an end. I'm particularly concerned about this because the basis of inequality starts from when a child is born. Odubu, you will agree that in building those schools in Edo, one of my arguments was, I do not want to create or part of a leadership that creates a society where a child of a poor person is afflicted with inferiority complex because whereas he's in a school without without furnitures, the child of a rich man in private school attends a beautiful school. And so he feels inferior, even from the age of 5 or 6 or 7. And by the time we were done with those red roofs and putting one man, one people, one desk, putting modern furniture, children were leaving private schools to go to government schools. And that element of inferiority complex was defeated. I think that we have a duty as a people to ensure that the children of the poor are not treated in a way that because they are not properly taught, the laborer gives birth to a laborer, and that laborer gives birth to another laborer. Over time, you create what I call a dynasty of the poor. That ladder with which those in government in the past and even now, that ladder that we use to climb to attain our current level, we have not just a moral duty, we have obligation, even within the provisions of the Nigerian Constitution, to restore that ladder so that the child of a laborer today can become an engineer tomorrow. If we do not do that, and more people are dropping out of the system, this ship can never be stable. Now, I come in my earlier introduction, I spoke to how Sir Ahmadu Bello created or established textile factories in Kaduna, and eventually this spread across the country. Awolowo also established Ikeja Textiles, and I believe Azikiwe established Aba Textiles, and the Premier of Midwest established Asaba Textiles. Between those four, we have textile industries that were growing in Apapa, Isolo, Kaduna, Huntua, Kano, Bompai, Sharada, Port Harcourt, etc., etc. And Nigerian young people were fully engaged. What has happened? Those industries disappeared, not through the activities of Boko Haram. They were killed by incoherent public policies. They were killed by incoherent trade policies. They were killed by incoherent investment policies. What I seek to do, if I become the president of Nigeria, is to ensure that both the monetary authorities in CBN understand that in formulating their monetary policies, there must be coherence with the policies, the fiscal policies by the Ministry of Finance. And the Ministry of Finance must robustly engage with the Ministry of Industry and of Investment. There has to be coherence between these arms of government. And the shared objective must be to ensure that we create an environment in which people can set up businesses. I will encourage the monetary authorities to engage the banks and reform the banking system in a way that poor men and women can walk into a bank. If they can walk into a bank to open a savings account, they must also be able to walk to a bank to borrow from that same bank to set up a small-scale businesses. Like I've argued in many quarters, I appreciate very, very much the effort of the CBN government in creating special windows to deal with the limitations of many who cannot have access to funds from a commercial banking. I will insist that the banks are made to perform their role the way it was before the banks were deregulated. I built my house in Kaduna without having the whole amount of money in my pocket, through a policy that encourages the banks to lend to housing sector in single digits. The current dilemma is that you cannot go to the bank and borrow to do business. I do not see how CBN alone will be able to create all the windows necessary. And like I jokingly told somebody, I said, a window is a window. It is always higher than the floor. If the crippled, the disabled must also be able to do businesses, then we need a door, not a window, because to climb a window is still a challenge for a cripple. By a cripple, I mean an economic cripple. So we must reform the banking system such that the fortunes of the bank is linked with the fortunes of the economy. If the economy is not growing, if investment is stagnating, how is the bank making their money? We have to remove speculation from the system and have a robust regulation that the banking system work for the economy, lend to the poor as it lend to the rich. This will require some courage to speak to people of power and people of money to recognize, as ILO told us in 1990 Philadelphia Declaration, that poverty anywhere is a threat to prosperity everywhere. If the bank do not understand that by not helping to create opportunity for poor people to borrow to set up businesses, they will have to understand that in the long run, all of us are in trouble. But I believe that with some determination, the CBN can bring the banking system to back in a way that ordinary Nigerians who don't know anybody can walk into his bank where he has a saving account and borrow when he needs to borrow with appropriate guarantees and pay back. Evidence is there that the poor are more ashamed to borrow without paying than the rich. I am very troubled about the fact that as we speak, all of us in this hall and millions outside this hall, we are all wearing either imported or even worse, smuggled fabrics. Everybody from top to bottom. Or as we used to say during the campaign, Dege Sama Hari Kasa. Dege Kasa Hari Sama. That cannot continue. If you imagine our dressing pattern and per capita consumption of fabrics, if 60% of our fabrics are manufactured in Nigeria, tailored in Nigeria, we have the garment factory, we will create more than 20 million jobs. And again, we are not reinventing the wheel. Those textile industries were here before. They, as I said earlier, they left or they went into liquidation because of incoherent government policy. As president, if God so decreed and made me the president, I will engage all the relevant ministries. Gentlemen, Nigeria, as Buhari has said, we must eat what we produce and produce what we eat. I will extend that logic. You must wear what we manufacture, the fabric we manufacture, and we must manufacture the fabric that we wear. If the Nigerian Army, the Nigerian Air Force, the Nigerian Navy, the Nigerian Police, the Nigerian Customs, the Nigerian Civil Defense, the Nigerian Road Safety, and all the other government agencies, by an executive order, are directed that all the uniform must be made and tailored in Nigeria, we will create millions of jobs. We will create millions of jobs. If we insist, as president, I will wear what is made in Nigeria, tailored in Nigeria. I'm sure you will not be ashamed to wear it. That was why when I was governor, I brought honor and dignity to khaki. Even big men were wearing khaki to come to our campaign. Because the argument is simple. In my official portrait in Government House and at the airport, you find president, you find khaki. If you don't like the khaki, don't come here. Now, if the governor wears khaki, who is too big not to wear khaki? But let me also say, the khaki is well tailored. It suits, it's comfortable, it's functional. I can meet with presidents in a cozy villa. I can also meet with unemployed workers under the tree and under the sun. So, but let me make the point I want to make. Between the CBN and the Ministry of Industry and Investment, we will encourage major well-known textile manufacturers and garment industries to locate in Nigeria if they want to take advantage of our 200 million population. I will invite major manufacturers of tires. We have millions of cars on Nigeria roads of different sizes and shapes, including trucks. As a union leader, I had, whether it's a privilege or a burden, to go to Port Harcourt to organize the workers of Michelin to insist that Michelin pay decent wages. From there, I went to Ikeja and organized the workers in Dunlop to ensure that Dunlop workers get good wages. Today, both Michelin and Dunlop have relocated to Ghana and some other African countries. But their main market is Nigeria. Just imagine that every car that you drive, every car that I drive, all those tires are imported into Nigeria. If somebody notices something, if you imagine that those tires are manufactured in Nigeria, imagine the number of chemical engineers you will employ, the number of electronic engineers that you will employ. Unemployment is not created by poverty. It is the result of clearly thought out policy instruments. So I will insist that we give you a 1-year moratorium. Government will provide the guarantees. We have all the experts in every field of life. We will assemble them to engage these guys and ensure that within a year of being in office, the tires that are used in Nigeria are manufactured in Nigeria by Nigerian workers. These are decent jobs. So when your son or daughter choose to read chemical engineering, electronic engineering, plastic engineering, etc., there is a place for him or her to work. Jobs they don't drop from heaven. They result from policy instruments. We will also go back to the vision that with 200 million people, just look at the number of Toyota cars, just the government houses alone. As you leave this place, go to Asokoro, go to the various state government houses. You will see the number of Toyota cars of various sizes. Just stand by the roadside and see the number of Toyota cars in Nigeria, whether they are small or they are big. If South Africa can insist that Toyota is manufactured in South Africa, South Africa does not have half of our population. I will insist that the very vision that informed the setting up of Pujo Automobile in Kaduna, Volkswagen in Lagos, Tesla, whatever, another one in Ibadan, Mercedes-Benz in Enugu. It is not too late. As they say, if you got drunk because you had too much money, when the money dries up and you have recovered fully your brains, don't be ashamed to return back to where you fell asleep. We must bring those industries back because now we have more populations. We must manufacture the cars that we ride and ride the cars that we manufacture. Again, this is extending the logic of President Buhari that eat what you produce and produce what we eat. So I will say, drive the cars that we assemble and assemble the cars that we drive. That way, I believe, we will create not just millions of jobs, we will create millions of decent, well-paid jobs. I don't like when many of those who have declared says, I will create 100 million jobs. Just like that. Nobody tell us how. Do jobs drop from the sky? Meanwhile, as they are saying so, before they get home, more people have lost their jobs. I would also want to speak to one policy that I believe is at the heart of the crisis we face when I talk about our monetary policies. We must return to the era of regulation. Right now, there are debates. There are people who still want the naira to be floated. But for the fact that the CBN governor insists that he wouldn't float the naira, by now there are people, including people in the system, who are saying the naira should be floated. Whoever float anything of value, common sense. By the time military president Babangida asked us to debate IMF, we did one, and I was one of those in the trade union movement, and other progressive academics who argued that devaluation will destroy the middle class. Today, from where we had 1 naira to $1 around 1974, 1975, today you have 1 naira to $580, $1 to 580 naira. If we continue this journey that has no destination, only a madman embark on the journey. And if you ask him where you are going, he say, I don't know, but I know what day I will get there. Where are we going to? We will have to agree that these liberal policies are not working. And they will not work. Government is not about being a good man or being a bad man. Government is about mobilizing the right policies to deal with the right challenges. Given the current situation of our economy, I do not believe that leaving our economy future in the hands of liberals and free market, we must intervene. There are many who have found it fashionable to say government has no business in government. Yes, government may have no reasonable business in government, provided the private sector can handle all the businesses. But in any case, government must necessarily be involved in regulation. The greatest threat to poverty today is that you save 1 million naira 10 years ago, believing that by this year you will be able to buy a car or build a house. You just find that the value of that 1 million 10 years ago that gave you X dollars, today that 100 million will give you less than 200 or is it 500,000 naira or less than 1 million, less than $1,000. If we continue with that trend, of course, people are going to tell you, economic is basically common sense. That was why President Kriti said, economy is too important to be left in the hands of professionals alone. We need to revisit those policies. We need to stabilize the currency, stabilize prices. Because the real crisis now, this is one of the last things I want to speak to for those who are in salary earning job. I was part of the debate of setting up contributory pension scheme, where the worker contribute not less than 7.5% and the employer contribute not less than 7.5%. Whatever you had contributed 5 years ago, today, the value of that contribution is zero, courtesy of the twin evil of devaluation and the sister disease of double-digit inflation, year in, year out. Number two, when the pension scheme was being designed, the argument was that the crisis of housing, which leads to corruption, because there is no salary earner who can buy a house and pay cash. Not a legislator, not a banker, not a civil servant, no one. So how is the poor, how are the salary earners able to buy a house? Everywhere in the world, even the rich, they buy house through the mortgage system. And the argument then was that our mortgage system, the banks have only short-term funds because people put money for 3 months rollover, maximum 1 year rollover. And therefore, the bank cannot lend to mortgage institutions that will borrow and repay in 30 years. And the logic behind pension scheme was that it will provide long-term funds that will be used to service one of the social needs of workers. In other words, what we call the pension fund is the social capital of working people, whether in the private sector or in the public sector. Today, that social capital of workers is managed by those who are not workers. And they have no interest and they do not understand that that pool of money was created not just for pension. And there is no better way to secure the real value of our pension than to invest it in one of those critical areas of need of workers, which is housing. Today, you have more than 10 trillion naira of pension funds. And yet, many of Nigeria workers and working families, traders, farmers, they remain homeless, or at best, they live in room and parlors or in neighborhoods that are called houses for want of a better name. I believe that without NSC having to go on strike, as president, I will ensure that all the money, the social capital of workers, is used exclusively to address the social need of workers and no more. As it is today, it is government that is borrowing this money, which is why many people still retire without a house. And even when they pay you your contributory pension scheme, the total amount is not enough for you to take a bus from here to Lagos. That was not the vision, so we must revive it. Well, this is meant to be a declaration speech, but I didn't just want to do it the way some other people have done. The last one that worried me a lot is about the judiciary. The judiciary administer and interpret the law. And democracy is basically about celebration of the rule of law. You cannot celebrate the rule of law if you do not have a courageous and effective judiciary. As things stand today, and based on my previous job as president of the NFC, I know for a fact that the salaries of our Supreme Court judges, I always like to speak to the apex, because if I am 1.5 feet tall and they say somebody is shorter than me, you don't need to ask for the details. So if a Supreme Court judge earns less than 900,000 naira a month, and before you become a Supreme Court judge, you must be in your 50s or probably in your 60s. You will have wife and children and other dependents. And even the mere announcement that uncle, auntie is now in the Supreme Court raises the expectation of your relations. And then you pay the guy less than 1 million naira a month. How does it meet the obligations of his or her dependents? They are not allowed to do business. They are not even encouraged to socialize. And then you talk about courage. You talk about fear. People talk about fear from above when they get judgment that they don't like. Oh, fear from above. I argue that the real fear that every worker faces, or every policy maker faces, every decision taker faces, is the fear of hunger. The fear of being disgraced by your children when you cannot meet their needs. So if we are going to have a courageous judiciary, I will assure under my presidency that the judiciary is not only autonomous, but they get reasonable salary that they can live decently without visiting a neighbor when the school fee season is approaching. This is affordable, this is possible, this is doable, and this is what it is everywhere else in the world where you hear of courageous judiciary. Somebody is going to, I also believe that to deal with the issue of medical tourism, you saw a building here where they were showing my programs. I believe Nigeria can build in each of the 6 geopolitical centers a first-class hospital, well-equipped and manned by doctors and nurses that are well-trained. And I believe having a conversation with the NMA and Nigeria Union of Nurses and Midwives, we can work out a compensation system that links the reward of a doctor to his effort. So instead of working 8 hours for government and going to set up a mushroom clinic, we will create a situation that exists elsewhere, where doctors can use government facilities to do extra hours for which they get extra pay. They do not have to set up a mushroom clinic in order to influence their take-home pay. It is within the competence and the resources of Nigeria to build 6 standard world-class healthcare facilities in each of the geopolitical zones. And we can have a special center in Abuja as the Federal Capital Territory. If I could build the one I built in Edo that looked like a bank, we will do something even better than that in Abuja. No country has all that it needs to do all of the things that it wants. But you will find the money to do what you believe in. Nobody will find money to do what he doesn't believe in. So when we say, where will the money come from? We can't afford this. It is about priority. We will reorder our priorities and ensure that we get money to do those things that are central to us. Finally, what does all of this require? To do all of this I mentioned, we will have to review our tax policies. Those who make money must pay appropriate taxes. We must review our revenue service, equip them with the tools that they need to ensure that those who earn, whether in the public sector or in the private sector, that they pay appropriate taxes so that you tax the rich in order to provide for the poor. And it is in the interest of the rich to voluntarily make that payment so that they can enjoy their wealth. If we collect the right amount of taxes and we put men and women who have the courage, the know-how, and the president or the government provide the will to give protection to tax authorities, there will be nobody above the law. Those who make money must pay appropriate taxes, and those taxes will be used to meet the needs of our people. As we speak, we are told we spend trillions in subsidy. If we can spend trillions in subsidy, obviously we can spend much more than that on education. In all of this, there is one thing I think a leadership we need as a leader: the courage to make decisions. First, to appreciate your own limitation. No one man knows it all. But the responsibility of a leader is to assemble those, identify those who knows and who possess the skill you need, and appoint them, and give them the enabling environment to do their job without interference. I believe God has given me the courage wherever I have found myself, whether when I was a factory worker, I had the courage to fight the employer that employed me. As president of the NSC, I had the courage to engage the former president Olusegun Obasanjo. I was now called the people's president while he was the state president. If I did what I did as non-state president of Nigeria Labour Congress, with state power, no one should doubt my courage to do any of the things I promised and step on any of the toes that we need to step on, and even chop off those that need to be chopped off for the good of Nigeria. I remain confident that this country's case is not hopeless. There are huge problems, but they will be solved. These are moments of challenges. As they say, tough times don't last, but tough people do. I think we are tough people. We will defeat all the forces of darkness. And I want to warn that in the absence of debate on issues, everything I have said here, some people can dismiss it as non-issue. Even that will be of interest to me. The fact that we are discussing how best to fix Nigeria. I do not want people to be talking of fairness in terms of where they come from. Oh, it is the turn of my people. It is not fair that these people are monopolizing power. It is not theirs also. Let me ask you, is it fair that from the north to the south, from the east to the west, there are Nigerians who have not eaten today? Is that fair? That should be the fairness that bothers us, not the fairness of where anybody come from. I have not seen any leakage between where people in power come from and the poverty in those areas. The Nigerian poor are already united by poverty, and the few rich are united by their wealth, and the middle class are in their confusion. Let us change the debate away from religion, away from ethnicity, and focus on policy issues that will deliver jobs, deliver prosperity, fight insecurity, and ensure that Nigeria becomes safe for everyone. There is only one point I have not addressed. Somebody is going to ask me this current level of insecurity and banditry. My first answer is these are consequences. These are consequences. If people have good jobs, They will not ought to go and carry AK-47 with the risk that they themselves could get killed. Why we re-equip the police and pay them well? If I pronounce that police salary will be increased, it has to be increased. And anybody who block it will be fired. If I pronounce that I increase the salary of the armed forces, if any commander fails to deliver the money to the soldiers, that commander will be fired. We will use the stick and we will use the carrot. I believe that the Nigerian army, who has defended other countries when they are in trouble, they have what it takes to secure all of us. But we need to do a couple of things differently. I believe that engaging everybody concerned, we will deal with the issue of insecurity. I can't provide all the answers, so otherwise we'll be here for 2 days. But I want to tell you what I need is to be able to organize, identify. For economic policies, I will assemble a cream of left of the center economists who have alternative solutions to our problem, not those who are detained by market forces, and we will fix the economy. We will engage those involved in security, we will fix the security. What I need is the courage to implement the decisions and recommendations that we bring. Together, we will create a more prosperous, secure Nigeria for the good of all of us and for the good of our children. I want to thank you. God bless you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, can we put our hands together once again for Comrade Adams Ali Oshiomhole. Thank you.
kamar kama ba a saki ba kayan gwamna na Edo na kuma baka kwamsa ba.
Can we play